Thank you for that. Yes, you gave the title of this paper from the program, and that's definitely the one I sent to you. But originally I was given this title, Saint Ansgar Mission and the Beginning of the Christianity in Sweden. And after having written this paper, I think that is actually a better description, so I return to that one now. And I will mainly give an overview of what happened during this mission in the 9th century in Sweden, because I don't think everybody knows all the details. Ansgar's name might be known, but I think there are a lot of details which are less known. And after that I will also come with some conclusions which I think at least gives a very different picture than the one most people have. I hope you will have some interest in that. But nevertheless, I will start with some basics. Perhaps everybody here knows perfectly well who Ansgar and Rimmer were and when they lived, but maybe not. We have different backgrounds. So very briefly, Ansgar, yes, he lived, he just died in 865, and he was Archbishop of Hamburg, perhaps also Bremen. That's a little bit unclear, since there are so many strange documents, maybe forgeries, etc. from that time. So we don't know exactly. And he is the one, of course, which is known as the Apostle of the North. And Rimbert's name should also be mentioned because he wrote the Vita Ansgari, which is our main source for Ansgar's life. And he was also Ansgar's successor as the Archbishop of Hamburg, Bremen. And Vita Ansgari is a fantastic book, actually. It's very well told and very interesting, but it also contains also a lot of relevant facts. It's our main source for this period, but there are actually also other.
After Byrzyce, or maybe
what is two?
After Byrzyce, we have coming next Wolińskie, but unsuccessfully for the first time. Next Szczecin, and again.
Yes, 822, we can start there. Archbishop Evo of Reims, he got this, he became this papal legate to lead the mission among the Nordic peoples. And yes, he took this seriously, and he went to Denmark. And in Denmark, there were a lot of petty kings, always in conflict with each other. And one of them was Harald Clark, who thought it would be good to be allied with the mighty people in the south. So he had some sort of good contacts with Evo. And Evo was in Denmark in at least 823, and he baptized many people there. And Harald himself was not baptized then, but King Harald Clark of Denmark was baptized, not of Denmark, but Harald Clark from Denmark. He was probably a petty king with quite a small part. He was baptized in 826 in Mainz, and after that he returned to Denmark. And one person who followed him there was Ansgar, who was an unknown person in that time almost. And Ansgar, he got the position to be a teacher in the school that was established, probably some sort of court school in Denmark at that time. So it was quite subordinated position actually. However, if we continue, then we can see that in 829 there was a sort of embassy to the emperor, Louis the Pious. So sort of, that is some emissaries from the Swedes, from the Sveones. They came to the emperor and claimed that they had a message from the king of the Swedes, that many people in Sweden were interested in Christianity, and perhaps the emperor could send some missionaries to Sweden. And the emperor thought this was a good idea, and it seems that it was the emperor who commissioned Ansgar, the teacher in the school in Denmark, since he had some experience in Denmark, and also a monk called Vitmar, to go to Sweden. And then we have, according to Ansgara, a description which mainly focuses on the problems on the way. They are attacked by pirates and they lose all the books they have and also all the gifts from the emperor to the king of the Swedes. But nevertheless, they arrive in Sweden in a town called Birka, which certainly is where Björke in the Mälaren is today. It's the only possible place for it, although there have been other candidates actually. And yes, they are well received by King Björn, and there is also a prefectus of Birka, some sort of important person in Birka, counselor to the king, called Herigar, or probably Hergeir, and he is also even baptized. And then Ansgar and Vitmar, they stay there for 1.5 years. And this visit in Birka, probably about 830, we don't know exact year, but it's quite close to this embassy from Sweden in 829. It's very famous in Swedish history, and it has become extremely much described as the origin of the Christianization of Sweden, a very important event. But in fact, very little is told in Ansgara about what they actually did in Sweden in that time. So we don't hear very much about it. But then they leave after 1.5 years, and now something more important, in my view, happens. Namely, that Ebo of Rhem, he consecrates a bishop of the Swedes, a man called Gautsbertus, and he becomes the bishop of the Swedes, Episcopus Sveonum. And he's the first one who gets the title, and the only one for a very, very long time, actually. And he goes to Sweden, and there, or to Birka, and there he continues his good cooperation with the king, and he also has a church built there, and it says Ansgara, and he has a lot of success. We also learn from that. And Gautbert is very important since he really is the bishop of the Swedes, and he stays there for quite a long time. It's not really clear how long time, but it seems, if you look at the chronology in the Vita, that it's 15 years. Unfortunately, the information in the Vita doesn't really fit with other information we have, but at least he stays there for quite a long time. And Gautbert is also important because in his case we have another source too, namely Rabanus Maurus, the famous theologian and author and poet, etc. in Fulda. He has a correspondence with Gautbert when he is bishop in Birka. So it's the first real exchange of letters with a person in Sweden, actually. And from Rabanus' letters we can understand that we have Gautbert's letters are not preserved, but Rabanus' letters are partly preserved, fragmentarily. We can learn that, yes, there are some problems. Gautbert has obviously complained over problems with resistance from the Swedes against the Christians. But Rabanus tries to comfort him, and more important, he also sends a lot of things, and he lists what he sends there. He sends to Gautbert in Birka Missal, a Psalterium, a manuscript of the Acts of the Apostles, 3 altar cloths, 2 sets of clerical clothing, corporale, pallium, 1 big bell and 1 smaller bell. So Gautbert's Swedish church is quite well equipped, it seems. And as mentioned, Gautbert has a church really built in that time. In the same time as Gautbert is bishop in Birka, bishop of the Swedes, Ansgar also gets this papal rule of papal legate for the northern peoples. He shares this with Ebo, who had it already since 822. It seems that Ebo still is the leading one, the boss over there, because he is the one who chooses Gautbert for bishop, for example, and Gautbert is also relative to Ebo. But still, Ansgar gets this position of being the papal together with Ebo, responsible for the mission among the northern peoples. But nevertheless, Gautbert continues to be bishop in Birka for quite a long time, and after some times, according to the Vita, it is shortly after 845, and then there is an uprising against him and his follower and relative Nithard. We don't know Nithard's real position there. He is killed in this uprising, and Gautbert flees from Birka. And then we learn from the Vita that there is no priest in Sweden for 7 years. That doesn't fit the chronology really, so maybe something is wrong there. Probably it was a shorter time. Nevertheless, a person called Ansgar the hermit, he's sent to Birka, and primarily he is there to support Herigar or Hergeir, who still is a good Christian. And there are quite a long descriptions in the Vita Ansgari about Hergeir's Christian, his piety and all his good deeds for Christianity and so on. This is really one of the dominating parts of this. And that takes place during the time when Ansgar is in Birka. And in this time we also have a long description in Vita Ansgari about 2 Christian ladies in Birka, Frideborg and Katla, and they're very pious too, and they help the poor, etc. Very long descriptions about that. And that takes place in Ansgar's time. We do not know for sure when Ansgar actually was there. Let's see what I have expected there. 840s, but we don't know for certain the years. But nevertheless, after some time, the idea is that Gautbert should return to Birka to be his bishop of the Swedes. He should lead the congregation in Sweden and lead the mission there. But he's reluctant, and he thinks that should be another leader, and he appoints a man called Ehrenberg, who is his nephew actually. Ehrenberg is a new leader of the congregation in Sweden and a leader for the mission in Sweden. And then he goes to Birka, and who follows him there? It's Ansgar. Gautbert thought that was a good idea because he says to Ansgar that, yes, you succeeded better than I did. I had to flee from Birka, but you were well received. And Ansgar follows Ehrenberg to Birka. And this is about 850 or something like that. And we learn that Ehrenberg, he starts everything again, and he also has a church built there, for example, and but Ansgar is with him. But again, this Ansgar's visit to Birka, the second visit, is also very famous in Swedish historiography. But very little is told in the Vita about it. There's a long description about the problems they have to convince the people that they should be able to preach. But what Ansgar does later is very unclear. The factual information, what is done, that's connected with Ehrenberg actually, who also is leader of the congregation. That's completely clear. And so Ehrenberg continues to be there for quite a time, it seems. And then in Ansgara there's a long description of a sort of Swedish war with the Curanians. And the reason for telling that in Ansgara is that the Swedes, many Swedes think that Christianity is quite good, so they start to fight in the name of Christ, and they are successful, and so on. And that is very good for the priest Ehrenberg in the Ansgar's Vita. But after some time, Gautbert replaces Ehrenberg with another priest, Ansfrid. And Ansfrid, he stays there for some years, 3 years actually, it said in Vita Ansgari. But we don't know which years, but we can of course guess. 850s, 860s, probably. And but then Gautbert, the bishop, who is still not in he dies, and when he dies, Ansfrid leaves Birka. And now Ansgar, who is the famous one here, he takes a sort of initiative for the first time, actually, as far as I can see. He takes initiative. Since Gautbert, the bishop, is dead, Ansgar, the archbishop of Hamburg, he sends a priest, his own priest, it said in the Ansgar's Vita, Ragenbert, and towards Birka. But he's killed on his way, so he never comes to Sweden. And then instead Ansgar chooses a Dane called Rimbert, and that's not the same Rimbert who later became an archbishop and wrote down Vita Ansgari, but there's another Rimbert. He's a Dane, it said, and he led the congregation in Sweden and the mission in Sweden for quite a long time, obviously, because Rimbert in Vita Ansgari writes that he is still doing this when the book is written, probably in the 870s. After that, we don't know very much. Ansgar wrote a letter in 865 to the Pope and claims that the mission is very successful, and now there is a congregation both in Sweden and in Denmark. But we don't know how true it is about this successful situation. But at least this Dane Rimbert was there. After that we knew very little, but Rimbert, the archbishop, the Ansgar successor in Hamburg Bremen, he also visited Sweden. That's clear from the Vita about Rimbert. He visited Sweden several times, at least clearly one time, but he has a sort of letter exchange with Ratranus about the cynocephaly, the dog-headed people, and he claims he has got information from people in the north, which probably is Sweden in this case, but we don't know anything more about that. Rimbert dies in 888, and after that, actually, we don't know anything more about this mission in Sweden in the 9th century, for sure. So, what conclusions can be drawn by this? Yes, when I reread all these texts, I had a background, of course, in the general knowledge in Sweden about Ansgar and his role as the apostle of the north, and especially the apostle of Sweden, which he's really famous for. And in the Swedish historiography, one usually mentions these two visits in Birka, Ansgar's visits in Birka. The first one about 8:30 and the second one about 8:50. These are the important events. Ansgar is the leading one, the one who starts this, who administrates this. He is the one who Christianized the Swedes in this time. That's the story. But in my view, if we read the documents thoroughly, Ansgar as a person is very much overestimated. I mean, his rule is exaggerated very much in the later historiography. This 9th century mission in Sweden was very much more than Ansgar's work and these 2 visits he made there. And the second conclusion is that this mission in Sweden was also continuous from the very beginning in 830 until the 880s probably. And it was not only these 2 visits, and there were always people there active, almost always. And the third conclusion is that, precisely what I said, that most of this time there was a priest and a leader of the congregation in Birka. So, I think this overview about of the leaders in of the Christian congregation and mission in Sweden clearly proves that yes, Ansgar had a rule, definitely. He came there together with Wittmann. But then Gautbert was there, and Nithard. Then we have Ardgar, Ehrenberg, Ansfrid. Ragenberg never came there, but was appointed, and Rimbert the Dane was there for some long time, and Rimbert the Archbishop visited Birka for probably several times. So, I think this is really a continuous work going on there. Many more people than Ansgar are involved. But maybe even more. Yes, I think that Ansgar's as a person is very much overrated, overestimated. We can see, for example, that it was not Ansgar, it was Ebo of Rhein, who was appointed papal legate for the mission of Scandinavia already in 822, and he was successful in Denmark. And when he actually, Ansgar got also this rule of papal legate, he shared it with Ebo, who continued to be, obvious, the one deciding things there. He is the one who clearly chooses Gautbert, for example, and consecrates him. And yes, it's Ebo Wein, not Ansgar, appoints the first bishop. And it's Gautbert, this bishop, not Ansgar, who is consecrated as bishop of the Swedes, the person only. Gautbert, not Ansgar, stays in Sweden for many years, perhaps even 15 years, and he continues to be bishop after that too, in quite many years. He's the one who decides about the Swedish mission, really. And he is the one who's stayed the longest time there. And it's Gautbert, not Ansgar, who is the first choice to re-establish the Christian congregation after this rebellion. Ansgar is the secondary choice. And it's Gautbert, not Ansgar, who appoints the new leader for the Christian congregation, Ehrenberg. And it's Gautbert, not Ansgar, who also appoints Ehrenberg's successor, namely Ansfrid. And it's Gautbert, not Ansgar, who has a church built for the congregation in Birka. It's Ehrenberg, not Ansgar, who has a hall for prayer or some sort of church built in Birka after the re-establishment of the congregation. And it's under Gautbert, not Ansgar, that the congregation gets all these bells and pallium, corporale, psalterium, altar cloths, etc. And it's under Ardgar's time in Birka, not in Ansgar's time. Here they shows all this Christian piety and all these things. And it's under Gautbert's and Ardgar's time in Birka, not in Ansgar's. We have these long stories about Frideborg and Katla and all the piety. And it's under Ehrenberg, not under Ansgar, this Huronian war, where so many people seem to have been converted to Christianity. And it's Ehrenberg who gets the credit for that. So, actually, Ansgar takes his first own initiative in the Swedish mission only after Gautbert's death, when he sends Ragenbert to Sweden. Before that, he's very unimportant, I would say. And so, my last conclusion, then, because I think I have to stop, is that Galtbert, Bishop of the Swedes, he is the main leader and the most important person for the 9th century mission in Sweden. And Galtbert, he should rightly be called the apostle of the Swedes. But Galtbert is completely unknown. Everybody knows Ansgar. But please, I think we should throw this Ansgar monuments in the water and raise one for Galtbert instead. Thank you very much.